ಹಾಯ್ ಡಿಯರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್, ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ಅಕ್ಷರಧಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನನ್ನ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ स्वागत. आप सबको मेरा चैनल में सब स्वागत है. So I hope you guys are enjoying the English learning, and I hope you guys are learning and working towards to improve our communication in English. And also I would explain in Hindi, English, Kannada, Telugu. At a time it's not possible, so at a time I would try to explain Hindi, English, and Kannada. So you have to understand and make you understand. You have to understand the situation. So today is 17th July 2023. So let's start. Before going to start the newspaper reading, I would request you guys to please subscribe the channel, like and comment for more videos related to education, healthcare, and personal interviews, especially related to education. So let's go to start the newspaper reading. Yes, guys, let's start today newspaper reading, and let's see what's in the front page of the newspaper. बनी ಏನಿದೆ ಇವತ್ತು ये क्या है आज फ्रंट पेज में देख सकते हैं. So lightning not a natural disaster, says Rajbir led SBS joins hands with NDA. Government sets up a new panel to review all NSO data. Conglomerates are getting too big for comfort. Some are being unduly favored by the state. ISRO to launch PSLV with several satellites. Alcaraz claims maiden Wimbledon title. No ticket for unpopular candidates, says Chauhan. AP confirms it will join opposition meet in Bengaluru today. State set for second meeting of opposition leader. India to push G20 partners to raise MNC tax share. Panel wants Kuno Chita to undergo medical review. Market can fluctuate your savings and need not. BDA illegally converted 94 CA sites into residential plots in Nadaprabhu Kempegowda layout, Shivakumar. Deputy CM reveals that these sites spread over 64 acres were diverted and converted into residential plots without following the due process. Man held on charge of trying to kill wife. Row relationship, student set on fire sustains third degree burns. Inspector suspended for not proving honor killing case properly. Shakti, 291 villages in state do not have bus services due to bad roads. All villages served by Bengaluru Metropolitan Transport Corporation have been connected by bus facility, claims Transport Minister Ramalinga Reddy. Private medical college ready to offer free education makes a plea to government. Request to drop Kannada as a subject elicits sharp reactions. Flight bound for Delhi delayed by nearly 2 hours. Kodava seek exclusive constituencies on the lines of the one for Buddhist in Sikkim. It's all in the mind. Incorporating mindfulness practices into the curriculum will help students cultivate the skills required to become caring and committed citizens. It's all in the mind. Incorporating mindfulness practices into the curriculum will help students cultivate the skills required to become caring and committed citizens. So Vidyashilp University, I don't know what is this. Let's Karnataka Education Review for a bright future. The education ecosystem of NAP learners' freedom of choice in the higher education system. BJP JD's tie-up, regional party looking at outcome of NDA meeting tomorrow. While the BJP has not yet appointed its leader of opposition in both the houses of a state legislature, despite the completion of 2 weeks of the budget session, Bommai says the party will decide on the post after the meeting. JDS also say the party has not been invited to the NDA meet. HDK likely to become LOP. Hayanu Manjunath, Center North State has banned wearing of bangles. CM. Kadir honored with a Great Son of India award. Power, Powerlifters from SWR win All India Championship. Tamil Nadu demand for water. Chief Minister DKs to hold meeting soon, says Chilvaraya Swami. Man arrested for derogatory post on Siddaramaiah. Matruvandana schemes to continue. Car runs over 4 women waiting at bus stop on EC Hor. The police said the car was being driven in a rash manner by a 22-year-old. Two other women who were also knocked down by the car at Kalp- Kalputupattu sustained serious injuries. Police served summons on 4 YouTubers for erroneous videos on DIG's death. Efforts were on to trace the IP address of the characters of three more videos, said a senior police officer. Rail plan, Kerala BJP chief changes stance. AP officials gear up to tackle flood threat as inflows into Godavari rise. Soon, Araku coffee will be a made in Andhra Pradesh product as GCC sets up its own plant. Commonly found cicada species sheds foreign tag to embrace Indian identity. India's conglomerates are getting too big for comfort. Let's read this editorial page, guys. This is very important for the point of examination for the competitive exams, especially for the civil service examination. So for civil service exams के लिए वो editorial page बहुत important है. So always like hard time read this page, guys. Let's start this editorial page. आइए क्या है इस editorial page में पढ़ाई. So nothing, not even Hindenburg research seems to stop the advance of Indian big business. The Adani Group continues with its acquisitions even if at a slower phase and has been able to persuade financial markets to lend it more money, notwithstanding assessments that it is over dependent on debit. Reliance Industries Limited has announced the demerger of its financial services arm to re-establish a new entity, which media speculation sees as a bid by the group to establish a dominant presence in the financial services industry. The demerger is being seen as a repeat of the strategy adopted by the group in areas stretching from telecommunications and the retail trade to the media and entertainment businesses. Other business groups such as the Tatas and the Aditya Birla Empire seem to also be performing well. The biggest of India's big businesses seem to be thriving. But this assessment is not true of all business in India. It is not just that small and medium scale firms, not to mention the large mass of informal enterprises, are not doing well and are yet to recover the COVID-19 inflicted losses. Many established big business names do not share the good fortune of the big few. A former Reserve Bank of India deputy governor and his co-author report in a much cited
paper that the share of assets in the non-financial sectors owned by the big five business groups has risen from 10% in 1991 to nearly 18% in 2021, whereas the share of the next five has fallen from 18% to less than 9%. While they claim that increased concentration is contributing to inflation has been challenged, the evidence they provide of significantly increased concentration has not. Progression to state capture. The dangers of such a rapid rise in industrial concentration have been flagged in the past across the world. The process feeds on itself by using market power to stifle competition. It results in profit inflation or profiteering through the manipulation of cost and prices. In the process, it fosters extreme asset and income inequality. It triggers efforts to influence institutions of democracy and through means such as the capture of the media. It dilutes the role that civil society can play as a country countervailing power. In time, it leads to undue corporate influence over political processes and the formulation of policy with tendencies bordering on state capture. These fears were strengthened by the recognition that these tendencies are not stalled by competition in the market but are a consequences of the functioning of markets given asset and income inequality and therefore differential power among economic agents. The functioning of the market favors, for multiple reasons, those who are asset rich, leading to concentration and centralization. That recognition led to the argument that it is not only necessary to regulate markets to address the malicious outcomes their functioning can give rise to, but that there is a need to physically prevent the growth of dominant businesses and excessively large conglomerates or even break up those that are seen as too big for comfort. A promotion of big business. The difficulty is that while civil society voices can make a case for such action, in the final analysis is it is the state that must implement the needed policies, and the nature of the state is not independent of the influence that the structures in society exert. Democracies have battled hard to force governments to maintain some distance from private capital in general and big business in particular. Those efforts have been partially successful in a specific historical context, leading, among other things, to strong action against monopoly and trustification. Similar efforts were seen in India immediately after independence, as a national state emerged from a freedom movement that was a broad alliance of diverse classes. But over the years, the distance between state and private capital has narrowed hugely, leading to the current situation in which the state promotes big business rather than regulate or curb the latter. Within that framework, the decisions as to how many and which business groups to promote and to what extent is arbitrary. Three trends have signaled this narrowing of political distance between the state and the big business. First, the embrace of a neoliberalism by powerful voices within and outside the state. This implied adoption of the view that the role of the state is not to regulate private capital but to facilitate its growth as means to all round economic progress. In fact, advocates of neoliberalism have argued that the competition that would be posted by a liberalized regime will counter concentration. The reverse has happened despite early signs in some packed sectors that competition had increased. Even in areas such as telecommunications and civil aviation, the initial increase in the number of new players only triggered a process of churning with associated social waste that has finally left a few with signs of collusion among them. The consumer will be the loser. The second is the propagation of the weave that the state must help strengthen domestic big business to not just hold its own against giant global competitors, but to step behind Indian shows. State policy, diplomacy, and public resources, including those channeled through public banks, had to serve as instruments for the purpose. While liberalization opened up Indian markets and subjected much of Indian business to global competition, state intervention was modified to protect and promote sections of big business, not least through large scale subsidies and transport. The factor. Third is the refusal to reduce the influence of money in politics. In the event, a closeness of political parties and therefore the governments they may lead to business has turned out to be a prerequisite for garnering the resources needed to manage elections and win electoral support. Over time, policy has been changed to legitimize corporate donations to political parties, including through the infamous electoral bonds scheme. What is frightening in the current situation is that these tendencies have coalesced into a strategy where, in the name of strengthening India's business, as part of promoting the national interest. A very few business groups have been actively favored by the state. Under normal circumstances, this should have led to widespread resentment and dissent, not just among those in the lower segments of the asset and income pyramid, but among more powerful sections closer to the top who are being ignored. That would spell instability and also perhaps serve as corrective. But that has not happened in the new India because, again, in the name of a national interest, state power is being used to suppress any such dissent. The result is an almost relentless, much too extreme concentration of wealth and economic power. This is about the India's economic thought. Something special. India's relationship with France is unique and multidimensional. The Ukraine counter-offensive, a reality check. Let's read this editorial page written by a former Foreign Secretary Krishnan Srinivasan. After months of speculation as to when and where the Ukrainian counteroffensive against Russia would begin, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky finally stated on June 10 that the offensive had begun. It must be assumed that the lack of fanfare attending this event was because the assault until then had not proved as successful as anticipated. While United States National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is no doubt correct that this is a story that continues to be written day by day. Ukrainian losses are presumed heavy in men and material as Kiev proved for weakness in the Russian defense lines stretching 1,000 kilometers in the east and southeast of Ukraine. Both sides acknowledge that fighting was intense, especially as Ukraine initial efforts were to drive through Russian positions to reach the Sea of Azov and deprive Russia of its land access to Crimea. It can be assumed that this strategy had been anticipated by the Russian side. How Ukraine and Russia stack up. Ukraine has assembled large quantities of North Atlantic Treaty Organization supplied weaponry and a great number of its troops for the offensive, and much of these are already committed in battle. Losses on both sides are confirmed in both capitals. After 6 weeks of fighting, it appears that the bravado in the Western media about the counter-offensive has diminished to a point where it is rarely discussed. Kyiv evidently does not have the air supremacy against Russian defenses that can facilitate advances on the ground, and the revolt against Russian military commanders by the paramilitary mercenary Wagner group under the Renegade Evgeny Prigozhin, which was a huge embarrassment for the Kremlin, has not delivered the advantage anticipated by Ukraine on the front lines. The second major Ukrainian thrust seems to be in the Bakhmut region to negate the Russian gains of earlier months. This enterprise seems to be meeting some success, though it is slow, and localized. The Ukrainian can recapture lost year of Kharkiv and Kherson, along with significant territory, might be harder to replicate now. Since in these sectors, the Russians choose to withdraw in the face of Ukrainian attacks, but they are now dug in with heavily mined forward positions and holding their ground. The Russian army is stronger in numbers than previously, has prepared a defense in depth, strengthened its supply routes, and seems better prepared to deal with the counterattacks. Russian equipment derided by the West as antiquated has been put to effective use. The Russians seem to have adapted to the changed nature of the war, and the population seems ready for a protracted engagement since NATO, with its backing up Ukraine for as long as it takes, appears to envisage a total Russian defeat and evacuation of all Ukrainian territory. The Russians have certainly suffered losses of manpower, and elections which were due to be held in Russian occupied Ukraine have been postponed to next year. But Ukraine also does not have unlimited human resources, and its losses will be hard to replace. The huge leak of Pentagon files last April revealed the presence of American, British, and other NATO fighters in Ukraine, but the numbers are still small. While President Zelensky continues insatiably to appeal for weapons from anyone who cares to listen, doubts arise as to whether the additional resources that NATO is able to will prove decisive. A truce seems distant. Prospects for a negotiated end to the war are receding until after the American presidential election next year. Since the United States President Joe Biden, like most European leaders, has invested massive political capital in a Russian defeat, but there is a greater likelihood of escalation because the Kiev counteroffensive is stalling. Ukraine's forces are running short of ammunition, and NATO cannot provide it in the quantity needed. Washington has announced against strong objections of human rights advocates and the United Nations Secretary General that it will supply Ukraine with controversial cluster munitions, which are tiny bomblets from a tracker rocket, missile or artillery shell that scatters them in mid flight. They explode over a wide area on impact, but a significant proportion do not, and explode only on being handled or trodden upon. More than 120 countries, including most NATO members, have signed the Convention on Cluster Munitions that outlaws these weapons due to the threat caused to non combatants. The US has not signed the treaty, nor have Russia and Ukraine, which have both used cluster munitions in the war. In Ukraine, where 9,000 civilians are estimated killed and over 6 million made refugees, the question of additional threats to civilian life may seem moot. But the US would not wish to be judged by the same ethical stick as Ukraine and Russia. That Washington is willing to take that risk is a reflection of how badly the Ukrainian counteroffensive is faring. This is about the Ukraine practicality. So let's go to the next page. Flood feed. State must coordinate to evolve a joint strategy to combat floods. Architecture behind the new parliament, a needless controversy. Revant Reddy's remark on framers has put the Congress in a spot. He is a professor at CPT University. Views are exposed. e-rickshaws to two-wheelers, the shift in share of electric vehicles. The number of electric vehicles has surged, but the share in the total number of vehicles still remains below. Indian Judge World Park has withdrawn case. No ticket for unpopular candidates. Chauhan, two killed in Manipur in fresh round of violence. The victims include a 55-year-old Naga woman who suffered from mental illness and a 34-year-old man from a Kuki village of Laiman, Laimatantagbo. Naga organization caused a 12-hour shutdown. Mosque Trust moves to HC after collector bans entry. As per the plea, the Mosque was enlisted in the schedule of the protected monument by state government. Women still minority at IITs. Efforts on to achieve gender parity, says Preeti Agalayam. Note for multi-role chopper by early 2024 Safran HCL to set up firm in Bengaluru. The detailed project report is expected to be submitted next month for approval from the Cabinet Committee on Security. India to push G20 to raise MNC tax share. Government reduces subsidized tomato price to 80 a kg. SC Collegium quiet transparencies and driving change. Panel wants cheetahs to undergo medical review. In boost to BJP in Uttar Pradesh, Rajpur led SSBSP returns to NDA. This decision was announced after the SBSP Supremo met Amit Shah in Delhi. The renewed alliance is being seen as the BJP's attempt at gaining ground in Eastern UP, where the SBSP alliance damaged its prospects in 2022 Assembly election. State set in Bengaluru for the second meeting of opposition party leaders. Post rebellion, Ajit faction leaders call on Sharad Pawar. Congress holds meeting on uniform civil code as party awards a draft bill. Congress stand on Delhi ordinance a boost for BJP's CSAD in Punjab. Opposition alliance trying to protect dynasties. BJP. North Bengal underwater. Relief team on the way. Lightning not a natural disaster, says centers. Number of deaths due to lightning has been increasing of late. If it joins the list of natural disasters, victims will be entitled to compensation under the state disaster response fund. But an official says center is not in favor of it as death can be prevented through awareness program. Focus on research in animal husbandry, fisheries, TOMA. Relatives of Seema don't want her to return to Pakistan. Army troops for bilateral exercise in Ulaanbaatar. Army IM undergraduate program likely to have single entrance test. The greatness of Acharyas. Jane Birkin, a British French celebrity and style icon, dies at 76. Twitter owner Musk says platform has lost half of its advertising revenue. Rescue battle is out in South Korea where rain floods killed 2033. Morality police return in Iran 10 months after Amini's death. Russia's sufficient stockpile of cluster bombs, says Putin. Russian president wants Moscow reserves the right to take a reciprocal action if Ukraine uses the controversial weapon. He claims to have not used the ammunition in the Ukraine war so far. Dangerous heat waves felt across the globe as wildfires rage. Iraqi PM in Damascus in a first trip since Syrian war. Shahbaz to hand over power to interim government before end of tenure. Dacoit attack temple in park with rocket launcher. All to be pumped from a decaying Hammond tanker. Lessons from Berkshire latest acquisition. Warren Buffett's most recent purchase of Occidental Petroleum for billions of dollars highlights not only the Berkshire way of investing aptly but also acts as an indicator of general market sentiment. Why just diversifying investments is not enough? Take these for granted, not them with thanks. The regulator mandated in 2016 that insureds are entitled to lifelong renewal of hospitalization policies. However, this still means you have to remember to renew in time. De Silva and Matthews bail out Sri Lanka after Afridi's blows. Bangladesh beats Afghanistan to seal the T20 high series 2-0. Australia keep the women's ashes despite Skyvar Brand's century. Vingegaard retains tour lead as Poels win in the Alps. It rains silver for India on final day of Asian athletics. Alcaraz gets the better of a fighting Djokovic in a memorable final. The hanger Spaniard bounces back after a forgettable first set to surmount the challenge of the seven-time champion Serb in a marathon of five sets lasting 4 hours and 42 minutes for his second major crown after the 2022 US Open. Lovepreet and Purnima bolster India's middle haul, batting OC women in blue sink to their first ever ODI defeating to Bangladesh. South Zone bowlers deliver the goods for a famous victory over West Zone. Vihari's men win by the 2075 runs after Panchal and co failed to put up a fight, losing the remaining 5 wickets in 22 overs. Kavera takes the honours. Keith Hanas upstages Anupama first World Youth Under 21 snooker title. Aditi signals to be an tied ninth place at the Dana Open. Lakshya loses to Lee in the US Open badminton semifinals. Nice to get one back against West, says South key skipper Vihari. Sable finishes 6th in Silesia, qualifies for the Olympics. Jamari wins the Betway Bangalore Summer Derby. Tanveen has the lost law of trading in options without knowledge is not a good option. Yes. And from Bhadohi to Rosia, Jaiswal harms a habit you. Mumbai's tradition of blooding the players. Yang saw him play for the senior side and he turned heads with his sensational show. The national selectors did the right thing as they picked someone when he was in top form as also the team management. Jaiswal has shown he has the awareness of different formats. Evolution is the right of all time form, right of all life forms, even synthetic ones. In 2016, researcher created a genome that had the absolute minimum number of genes to be compatible with life. It was widely believed that the resulting organism was unlikely to evolve because it had little freedom to adapt to environmental conditions. But a recent report suggests that this conclusion was mistaken. Coral bleaching. What is this exactly? Genome. Now is the time to build an ecosystem for India's cultural economy. Conclave of crafts activists held recently in Bengaluru looked at many facets of the cultural economy, including its power and potential. Srijit Nedumpulli, co-founder and director, Rope International, Nithin Pamnani. A lot of young artisans are leaving the profession because there is simply not enough money. Rich waves of India on display at Heritage site. When the mind is at sea, a new word provides a craft. The solution seem to be pulling in the direction of the binary, which was the original no. Jansang urges demonetization. The plan to avoid upsetting transgenders and non-binary folk will upset a larger constituency. Child's play. Railway feast. Children's theatre goes behind words and dialogue, where the unspoken is as significant as the unspoken. Sajita's Nayar's book maps social changes in turn of the century Kerala. Exotic Hoya thrives on city balconies. Text and context. This is the last two pages are little important for to make the economic conditions and improvement and development. Decline in automobile exports from India in first quarter of financial year 24. The record high hit by credit card spending in the month of May. 14 in lakh crore. Commonwealth weightlifting championship medals. 20 medals. Amount spent by Delhi Jal Board under Yamuna Action Plan. 1011 crore. Foreign portfolio investments in the first fortnight of July. 30,600 in crore. Wow. हमारे लहू का असर देख लेने वाला कदम जीत लेने सफर देख लेना. And Rahul Gandhi's conviction, the Constitution of India under Article 19.2 had declared defamation as one among the exceptions to free speech in criminal defamation. The actual harm inflicted or suffering caused is not a condition to constitute offense as intention or knowledge is sufficient. How gaps in cloud system configuration cloud could expose sensitive user data? What are some of the recent examples of data breaches in cloud environments? How do system misconfigurations happen? What is the most effective approach to secure sensitive information in the cloud? This is about the information technology and software and information technology. Equity and the women's champions at the championships in Wimbledon. So in this page and in the newspaper page, especially the editorial page is important and sports page is important. And what are the information on the in the front page? So we have to make it focus on the highlighted page in the front page. So I hope you guys follow the and read the newspaper from at least 40 minutes to 2 hours a day. So it will make you very good in communication. Also, it will improve your fluency in English in the next 30 days. If you are following, at least if you are reading each and every day 2 hours, then only you will be very fluent in English. So I hope you guys follow the tips, and I hope you guys follow the simple tips which I have given in the videos. So if you guys have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe the channel, like and comment for more videos related to education, wealth and personal interviews. So let's see you in the upcoming videos, guys. Have a great day. Bye bye. Take care.